What is up? This is Debo of Debo's Film Reviews, and this week is going to be the greatest Christmas movie of all time, Die Hard. Directed by John McTiernan, starring Bruce Willis as John McClane, with Bonnie Bedelia as Holly Gennaro McClane, Reginald Vell Johnson, best known for being Carl Winslow, as Sergeant Al Powell, Paul Gleason as Dwayne Robinson, the Chief, with Grandel Bush and Robert Davi, who also appeared in License to Kill. Both both of them did as both Agents Johnson, with Clarence Gilliard Jr. as Theo, the computer guy who was part of Hans Gruber's crew, and of course Alan Rickman as Hans Gruber. Now I gotta say, Alan Rickman played Hans Gruber so to a T that he was so perfect for that role that it was the closest we ever got to having him as a Bond villain. I swear, if he was still alive, he would have made a good one. And of course, with how perfect Bruce Willis was as John McClane, though originally it was all in planning. It was almost not the first choice because it was supposed to have been, of course, between the 80s being Schwarzenegger, Stallone, or either Schwarzenegger or Stallone, I mean, and even Burt Reynolds. Now that would have been weird for old Burt to be in New York, played the New York detective as as Burt Reynolds, a straight up Southern boy. But it would have been funny if it was Schwarzenegger or Stallone talk about, yeah, welcome to the party, pal. Or Stallone going, yeah, big guy, yeah, big guy, yeah, motherfucker. Man. And I also gotta say, this is practically the only time I ever seen Clarence Gilliard played a bad guy in a film. Given that he was best known for being being on Matlock, and of course Ranger Trevette on Walker Texas Ranger, and of course, like I mentioned, with Bruce Willis as as John McClane. Man, it's perfect. That was that was perfectly cast. Although although now to settle the debate on why it's a Christmas movie. I mean, first off, you get Christmas music in the soundtrack. Like at the end, you get Von Monroe singing "Let It Snow," and at the beginning, you get Run DMC's "Christmas Time in Hollis, Queens." You gotta give it to Devereaux Wright as Argyle Jones. Always made an excellent comic relief character, and of course with Sergeant with Reginald L. Johnson as Sergeant Al Powell. Now, he always played a good cop, where it was Al Powell or a signature role as Carl Big Guy Winslow. Kind of makes it funny at the end if Die Hard was released a year, or actually Family Matters was made a couple years earlier in the 80s, and if he played both roles, because it'd been funny at the end to say Carl shoots Carl, who White Carl, of course, was played by Alexander Godunov, the one mercenary who just had a tough dying in that film, alongside Al Long, Leong. That's pronounced right. I mean, that guy. It's an '80s movie when that '80s action movie when that guy's a henchman, because nobody can hench like him. From his role in the other Christmas classic, Lethal Weapon, to this one here, this here Die Hard, and of course originally with John McTiernan's directing, which he did a damn good job of. And of course with a book that novel Nothing Lasts Forever. I can't remember who wrote it though, which the book was based off of. Well, coincidentally, Eastwood actually had the rights to it at one point and intended to try to make it himself at one point. And that would have been weird to hear him, for Eastwood to be John McClane talking about, "Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker. Or, welcome to the party, pal." I know I can't do a good Eastwood impression. But oh, talk about some other great roles like William Atherton as Thornburg, the news reporter. I mean, where he just starts off with a whole line about, "Girl, wrap your toes around the carpet first once you get off a plane," and then at the end when he gets punched by Holly after putting her in danger for trying to taunt those, just from trying to taunt, uh, trying to get that. Hold on, let me get that. When he's threatening that the McClane's maid. I gotta say that was kind of a dick move. I'm like, to just assume a Hispanic housemaid's a illegal immigrant in that line, and then of course when you get to, he puts Holly McClane in danger by putting the kids on screen with young Lucy, who in Live Free or Die Hard and A Good Day Die Hard was played by Mary Elizabeth Winstead as the grown version in them sequels, but those are for other reviews. And of course with how excellent of a villain Alan Rickman was. God, we miss you, Alan. And of course, the whole, gotta mention some of the epic action scenes of what this great film is known for. Like at the beginning where you got the guys got Gruber's boys in the van, and they just hold up old Nakatomi Plaza, and then and then of course McClane decides to whoop all their asses. Starts off with generic blonde German goon 1, which I say is very odd for Hans Gruber to play a German though, since he was British, and of course Bruce Willis was actually half German, while in the film John McClane's supposed to be Mr. All-American Badass. Back to the action scenes. I mean, just like at the beginning where they hold up Holly and all the Nakatomi employees, and then shoot the heads, and then McClane just killing off all those German goons one by one, and then that scene where he meets Hans Gruber for the first time, thinking that he's a hostage, just who hid because he was out hid via a cigarette break. Man, talking about how good Alan Rickman did of covering up of American accents, which I always think was kind of odd for how my mind blown on that King of the Hill episode he was on, where Peggy had the Renaissance Fair episode. I admit that's off topic, but hey, Alan Rickman, man. And they're just talking about cowboys, and when in between radio conversations with Al Powell, and he's all under the code name Roy, as in Roy Rogers, because old McClane had to be a huge Roy Rogers fan. Talk about with his "Happy Trails, Hans" at the end, and woo. Talk about some of that epic. I already mentioned. Talking about the epic gunplay of. I mean, just only two types of guns he used was like which of course was the Italian-made Beretta 92F, or as the military called them, the M9, and the Heckler & Koch MP5. I mean, talk about some excellent guns for both tactical use and action movies, especially in the great decade of the 80s, the greatest decade of action movies. And I mean the decade that set the standard for action movies, especially especially the holiday classics like Die Hard and, which I'm reviewing, and Lethal Weapon. And that scene where the goon shoots the glass and he's having to go for glass and wrap around on a piece of cloth as like some redneck type, kind of make redneck shoe cloth and all. Uh, and and of course that scene where Bruce is on the table and he's got the gun like this and he's laying back and bam bam bam. I was like the blanks were pretty much they did it. The special effects people did a good job on that one because they, given how Bruce Willis actually sustained a lot of long-term hearing damage from firing them blanks. Talk about how loud it was if it was like made in the 30s where they still used rail guns and on sets and all. And of course with the rooftop showdown, and I'm talking about where Agents Johnson had a time to shine. Like I say, and those two, and Randall Bush and Robert Davi, they made some good actors, and especially Robert Davi, in the 80s, where he from got Goonies to License to Kill, where you could be both play characters that were both good guys, and then this was actually, I meant to say, although in Goonies and License to Kill he was a bad guy, but the closest you ever seen of him playing a good guy, kind of like as close as it was with Clarence Gilliard playing a bad guy. Well, he was known for playing good guys. And of course he got the epics, and of course with the old Gribber goons just taking down that helicopter. I mean, just there goes the Johnsons, which of course was written as a line as a inside joke to actor Reginald VelJohnson, who, of course, Al Powell. Oh, that tricky loving cop. I mean, talk about a lot of great moments in this masterpiece of course, this masterpiece gets a 5 out of 5. Just the soundtrack, the acting, chemistry, and how perfectly the perfect casting of both Willis and Rickman. And I should also go back to the old backstory of back then there with the conversation lines and of how Al Powell became a desk jockey because of him shooting a kid and all. But at the end, when he whoops Carl's ass, I already mentioned that earlier about how at that moment of Carl whoops Carl, and yeah, like I say, Carl got smoked by big guy. Man, that'd be funny if there was an episode of Family Matters and they were watching that and Urkel make a joke of, Carl got whooped by Carl. Man. And overall, I already mentioned, it's a 5 out of 5, and yes, it's a Christmas movie. Enjoy, people.